Well, first out of North Korea, the nation's state-run news agency announces the atmosphere is right for reconciliation. It comes ahead of a planned meeting between President Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong Un. And while the diplomatic talks are not directly mentioned, this is the first time Pyongyang has even hinted that plans are underway. Joining us now, Ambassador John Bolton, former U.S. ambassador to the UN, a Fox News contributor and a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. Ambassador Bolton, what are we to make of these new pronouncements or maybe overtures from the Kim regime?
Well, I don't think they're really directed at the United States. I think this is warming up the people of North Korea, the leadership, and so on, as to what may be about to come here. As I've seen the reports of this statement, it really is referring more to reconciliation with South Korea than anything else. President Trump is not mentioned. The meeting with the United States is not mentioned. So it continues the pattern we've seen now nearly for 2 weeks that North Korea has not made any public statement about a Kim-Trump summit. So, as I say, I think this is internally directed. It remains worrying to me that the North Koreans haven't said anything publicly. I assume that that the administration is pressing South Korea and maybe through other channels North Korea pretty hard to make sure we know exactly what they offered.
It's also my understanding that although they have agreed to talks with the American delegation and the president, they have not agreed that denuclearization is going to be one of the topics. If they leave that off the table, should the president still go?
Well, you know, it was my understanding, and again, we're listening to what the South Korean envoys who met with Kim Jong Un in North Korea, filtered through the government in Seoul, have told us here. But as far as I'm concerned, the issue that matters is denuclearization. All the rest of it's interesting and academically significant, I suppose. But unless Kim Jong Un's really prepared to have a conversation about how to denuclearize as soon as possible, then I think this would be revealed as a ploy to buy more time for North Korea to finish the last technical steps they need, and they're significant steps, to be able to hit targets in the United States with nuclear weapons. I think the North Koreans are very worried about the Trump administration. The level of pressure has been increased significantly, and the possibility that it would go beyond economic pressure, I think, has finally become very real to the regime in Pyongyang.
You have written an article that suggests that in your mind, we don't need to endure some kind of an attack from North Korea before taking military action against them.
Absolutely not. I don't think that we need to wait for North Korea to drop a nuclear weapon on an American city or a Japanese city or any other kind of city in order to defend ourselves. This was very much the thinking of the Bush administration, the George W. Bush administration's national security strategy, not because we want to use military force. Nobody wants to use military force. But leaving North Korea with nuclear weapons is very troubling. General Dunford, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said last summer in Aspen that he was asked, isn't it unimaginable we would use force on the peninsula? And General Dunford replied, what's unimaginable to me is that we'd leave North Korea with the capability of dropping a nuclear weapon on Denver.
So we have the prospect of some kind of an agreement, but the North Koreans, can you name an agreement that they have signed that they have lived up to?
Not one. Fred Clay, a former director of the Arms Control Agency, a well-known academic, once said the North Koreans were capable of boundless mendacity, his phrase. So that's why I think this conversation doesn't need 9 or 12 months of low-level diplomatic preparation. I think it is the kind of conversation that you can have very directly right at the top. Are you ready to denuclearize, or should we just go sightseeing for the rest of the day?
But very quickly, the United States and the old Soviet Union maintained, mutually assured destruction that kept the world free of nuclear weapons after Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Why would that not work with the North Koreans?
One, who would want to go back to that world? Two, the mutual assured destruction came very close to falling apart on any number of occasions. Three, the North Korean regime is a bizarre regime. For whatever reason, the Soviet calculus and ours on the risk of using nuclear weapons matched. There's no guarantee that that applies to the North Koreans. Four, we're talking now about a multipolar nuclear world, not the bipolar standoff of the Cold War. It's a very different situation. we have never encountered before. And sixth, and last, at least for now, it's not simply the threat of what North Korea would do with its own nuclear weapons. It's the threat they would sell those weapons to others, to Iran, to al-Qaeda, to other would-be nuclear powers. That is a real danger that I don't think people have taken enough account of.
With evidence out there, they've been selling chemical weaponry to Syria. That's pretty disturbing, a pretty disturbing thought. Ambassador John Bolton, good to have you on. Thank you.
Glad to be with you.